Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life.
There's so much information, so much knowledge, so much motivation available to us if we're just willing to tap into the universal energy that's available to us. The universe is constantly streaming information our way, and it's really about us learning how to put ourselves in a position to get that information, to download what's being sent to us, to hear the answers that's been given to us in different ways. You may hear words in your head, you may see pictures. Someone in your life may recommend something that is really meant for you to move forward on your journey. As you get connected, you learn more about what's available. You're able to tap into this universal energy of every thought, of every idea, of every plan. And as you tap into it, you're not only serving yourself, but you begin to serve others. I'm with Tamara Herl today. Tamara is the CEO of Wild Divine Retreat Center. She's a leadership coach who supports women who are passionate about helping society's dysfunctional systems transform. Her clients learn how to use art and nature to connect with universal wisdom and support, and then take their inspirational ideas back into the systems to help them reimagine how to do things. What sets Tamara apart from other coaches is her ability to weave experiential exercises into coaching sessions. Tamara Herl, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
I am. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm excited to delve into and to learn a little bit more about what you're doing, because I do know a lot, but I know there's much more for me to know. And then to share with the imagination how that can make a big difference in their lives. Before we do that, do you mind sharing a little bit more about you and what you're doing?
Sure. So I am working as a life coach, and I started out as a therapist. I've been doing that for many years, but I really wanted to focus more on people's strengths and the gifts that they bring. And I did notice that a lot of times when people were not happy with their life, it's because they weren't living their life purpose. So I've really started focusing on that, on helping people figure out, well, what is it that you would like to do? If money, time and money were no object, what would you like to do? What kind of contribution would you like to make?
As you step further and further into understanding how you could help people in a different way as a life coach compared to a therapist, what did you find, and what in that was most motivating for you?
The most motivating thing for me, and what I found is really helpful for people when they're open to it, is to get them connected to their spirituality. Because I think a lot of times there's a spiritual hunger that people have, and they don't even realize that that's what it is. And so that's been really, I love working with people who are open to exploring, kind of getting in touch with that spark of the divine that's within them.
Oh, that's beautiful. What was there any wake-up calls in your life that really stepped you further into living your purpose in a different way?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the biggest wake-up call for me, it was kind of a gradual thing. I kept noticing that I was part of these dysfunctional systems, and I tried to help them change from within and was met with resistance. And I tried, all different kinds of things, like introducing employee wellness projects and things like that. And what I noticed after a while, I thought, okay, this is a pattern. Why is this pattern happening? And I kept thinking I needed to leave. And I did leave several places, but when it kept showing up again and again, I thought, okay, this is a wake-up call. I'm supposed to help transform these broken systems. And that is why I've been part of them, so that I can feel the pain of it and help the systems transform if they're ready, or the people within them. If the entire system isn't ready, I can support the people who are part of the systems.
That's a great share. And a lot of times we don't look at things in the way that you just shared it. How can you help fix the broken systems if you haven't experienced the broken systems? And that's what so much of our life is about, is creating those circumstances to help us learn and grow into what we are here to do and share with the world. The one thing that really interested me in what you just shared was that these dysfunctional systems affect so many of us. Before we talk about them in depth, could you share what some of the dysfunctional systems are?
Sure. And of course, this is my opinion,
Mhm.
but the statistics kind of support it too, just because of the level of burnout that are present in these systems. So I see them as education. The teachers just do not have much of a life outside of work, and they're paid very poorly. Nurses and doctors have to see multiple. I thought my caseload was bad because I had to see 8 clients a day, but doctors have to see like 4 clients in an hour. Can you imagine that? And even insurance claims, people that are working for the insurance companies are pressured to make a certain number of calls, or else they get dinged for it. Even systems like lawyers, a lot of times they feel stressed out because the people that work with them a lot of times don't feel empowered enough to make decisions on their own. And of course, therapists. I know from firsthand, from being part of several systems. So those are some of the systems that I'm seeing that are really needing to be transformed.
And in helping people tap into their universal wisdom and get support that way, how are they able to then go back and help work with the systems, I guess?
Right, exactly. That's a great question. So one of the things that I do is to help them get rejuvenated. That's really important because people can get stuck in that fight or flight mode just because of all the pressure of working. So I take them out into nature, or if they're not here in person with me, virtually, I can show them the same thing. But how to go out in nature and really be fully present. And research has shown that when we are out in nature and really noticing, not just kind of mindlessly walking, but really walking slowly, noticing all the details, really opening up our senses and just bathing in that healing presence of nature, that it can switch us out of that fight or flight mode. So that's the first step, is to help them get rejuvenated. And then the second step is to teach them how to pay attention to what nature is teaching us and sharing with us. One of my main beliefs is that the universe is streaming information to us every hour of every day in so many different forms, if we just learn how to pay attention. And the universe wants to support us in helping to transform these broken systems. So once we slow down enough to get out of fight or flight mode and open up and start noticing what's happening around us, and especially we can also walk with intention to get a question answered and then see what shows up. And that's really helpful. So maybe a person wants to know how they can stand out. Maybe they're not working as part of a system, because sometimes the systems just don't want to transform. And so people have to break away and start their own system or company. And so when they're doing something like that, I know one time I was trying to figure out how to stand out, and I was playing with water, and I noticed that I had just had a stick in the water. And in order, the sound of the water was fairly loud. And so in order to make a sound that was different, I had to go against the grain or the flow of the current with my stick. And I thought, oh, sometimes you have to just not do what everybody else is doing. and then you can stand out.
I think as you just shared here, that sometimes the system doesn't want to change. And I think a lot of the systems that you shared with us are fit in that category. What do you tell your clients that are, I understand they're bringing in the universal energy, but what do you help them with in understanding when it might be time for them to break away from the system?
That's a great question. And I think it's just important to, well, like for me, what worked for me was when I could not show up the way that I wanted to. I just had this kind of negative, sassy attitude. And so I kept, I never got promotions or anything. And I just realized it was time to leave. So, I usually tell them to, or invite them to see if there are things that, ask for the inspiration, see if you get guidance to bring some kind of innovative idea into the system. And then if it's just not being received well, then maybe it's time to break away. And especially if they start noticing problems with their health also, in addition to their attitude and system.
What you shared just a little while ago about being able to tap into that guidance through nature, as you know, I truly believe that there's so many different ways to do everything, and we have to find our way. Can you share some of the ways that you help people tap into the guidance so maybe they could find a new or a different way for them?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I'm trying to think of examples. Some of the things that I have people do are journaling, and it's important to set intentions, as I said earlier. So to set an intention for what it is that you want help with, because I feel like there are so many things for most of us that we could use some help with. And so when we ask for universal guidance or go out in nature or create an image, and we're trying to understand what guidance is present, to start with an intention, and then to do whatever practice you want to do, and then to really just pay attention to what shows up, like I said. And then there are layers of meaning in everything that shows up. So, like with the example that I was using with moving the stick against the flow of the water. So if someone were to make an image of what I was just talking about, so they would draw the creek and they would draw the stick. Sometimes I will say, okay, so what does the stick symbolize in your life? What do you have in your life that you could use to push against the grain with? So just metaphors, I think, are really important in the work that I do, just because I think metaphors, when we explore those, they're less emotionally charged than, for instance, if a person was thinking, okay, so I have job A and job B that I'm looking at. And I will say, well, imagine that both of them are chairs. And they say, well, job A looks like an office chair and job B looks like more of a recliner chair. And I'll say, well, which one feels like it would be more comfortable for you? Or which one are you feeling more called to sit in? So exploring things through metaphor is a fun way to work, because it helps us see it in a less emotionally charged way, or from a bigger picture perspective. We can see it from that wise part of ourselves rather than the part that is so distressed about something.
And physiologically, it activates different parts of our brains
Right.
to help us tap into that vast amount of information that's available to us inside of us too. So I think that's exciting what you shared. The interesting thing when I think of the work that you're doing is that there's so many people out there that don't know they have a spiritual hunger. How do you help them see that?
That's a great question. I think it shows up as restlessness and unhappiness, of course, depression, anxiety. I mean, all of those classic symptoms. I think the way that the most powerful question that I ask is just, they'll talk about something, they telling me their story, and I'll just say, well, how well is that working for you? And when they're ready to change, they'll say it's not. But a person really has to be ready to change. Sometimes they're just in that story, and they're not really ready to be out of it.
I'm going to put you under the gun here, and I'm going to
Okay.
apologize right up front. And I know that this is your opinion, but I would love to hear how you feel about the some of the symptoms that you just shared as is evident across our country and across the world right now in the mental stability of the world and the mental stability of the country. I was wondering how do you feel that a lot of the mental experiences that we're having now with especially our younger kids has to do with the lack of spirituality in the country, the lack of spirituality in families?
That's a great question. I don't know that it's related so much to a lack of spirituality because some of the young people are very, very spiritual, whether their families are or not. From what I've seen, I have a 23-year-old daughter, so I think part of what is causing them to feel anxious and depressed is just the state of the world. And when they look at some of their parents and they're thinking, what, you've worked for 60 years and now, this is going to be your life. So I think part of it is just the state of the world and all the politics. And it's just, we're living in very tumultuous times. And I think that is part of it. They're just wondering how they can fit in. And, maybe they are even feeling called to help these systems transform, but it can feel really big and overwhelming.
So where would I'm going to ask you before we end our time together to share a parting piece of guidance. So don't give everything away here, but how do you recommend that people start on that journey to recognize, first of all, that there is this call to them, and second of all, that they can start that journey on their own? How would you recommend that they do that?
I think the most important thing is to find quiet time for reflection, time for journaling or making art, whatever gets a person into that meditative flow. And it could be cooking, it could be so many things. So I think part of it is just creating quiet time to listen and slowing down and making time for reflection every day. And then just having a willingness to be open to receive guidance. And also having faith that there is something larger than ourselves that is willing to assist us.
As you share about journaling, this is I'm just asking once again for your opinion on it. How do you feel about journaling when you're actually writing, and journaling if you're typing it out on the computer? How do you feel about that?
Well, I know some people like to do it on the computer. I love to do it on a piece of paper, though, because I love to do what's called visual journaling. It's something that I teach my clients, and you can find examples of it online, but it's really fun because on a typewriter or on a computer, I suppose you could do it if you were artsy enough with Photoshop or something, but maybe I would have an image of a sun. And instead of just having the words go on the bottom of the page, if I had an image of a sun, I might make the words go in and out of the sunbeams. And it just has a different feeling and flow to it. And so I think it's really fun to journal by hand and to, not worry about grammar and things like that.
What's the power in the visual journaling?
It can really help you see things that you might have some defenses around. I don't believe that we're ever shown anything that we're not ready to see, but we might say something like, oh, yeah, I have a wonderful relationship with my mom. But then if you're making a visual journaling post about or page about, maybe you would show your mom as as one kind of flower and you as another kind of flower, and you would notice on the page that they're really far apart or something. And then you might work to kind of connect that. Seeing it on the page just gives you a different perspective. It removes it from inside of you so that you can see it in a different way.
I'm sure that's helpful, especially if you're extremely left brain, to give yourself an opportunity to see the world in another way.
Definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the results that you've seen in your clients as you bring them to the retreat center, as you share these techniques that you've shared with us. Could you share some of the results that people have seen?
Sure. People tell me that they feel lighter after our work together. And I've seen people go out and take their businesses to a whole new level and take themselves to a whole new level. People tell me they have more clarity about their life purpose and about next steps to take. So just feeling more empowered and ready to move forward.
If if you were to share some of the motivating factors of the people that you work with, what are some of the motivators that bring people to your way?
Mhm. Burnout is one, or compassion fatigue, which is a different thing. Sometimes people are just feeling trapped or stuck. Sometimes they know that they have been playing small. They have a sense that they're more than what they've become, and so they will reach out for to attend a session or come to a retreat.
I think what you just shared there is so powerful. We have this feeling, we have this calling that there's more, but so many of us have developed over the years a belief or maybe even just given up that there could be more for us. What would you say to them?
I would say I would just encourage them to not give up, to maybe take some time to pour into yourself. Because when we start feeling that way, it's really hard. We kind of reach the bottom. And so I think it's important to nurture yourself. That's why I love going out in nature. For me, anyway, it's so nurturing. And to reach out. I think one of the things that makes it so hard for people when they get that way, they tend to isolate. And so I encourage them to reach out and, find somebody that cares about you, find a group of people that are passionate about the same things that you are. And I think that really helps, especially, when people realize that they're not alone, that other people struggle with similar things.
Well, and that's what we're trying to help the world see through the Miracle You podcast, that they're not alone. And through our wake up calls, many doors open. So, could you share a parting piece of guidance with the imagination on really stepping into their universal wisdom and the support that's available to them?
Right. The piece of wisdom that I love to share is just to stop waiting for someone else to fix it, because you are the one that you've been waiting for. And the way to get more clarity about that is to, as we've been talking about, is to journal, to go out in nature, whatever form of creativity. Some people like to dance. The expressive arts, I think, are so powerful, a wonderful way to become the one that you're waiting for and to figure out what your calling is. I think everyone longs to make an impact, almost everyone, and wants to make a difference in the world. And so just knowing that you don't have to do it alone, the universe has your back. There's all kinds of information and support that's available to us if we just take time to tap into it.
Could you share outside of journaling? Because so many people, well, outside of journaling and meditation, yeah, so many people tell me that, well, I just can't take the time to journal. I just can't, I can't meditate. I hear a lot of I can't. Is there another way that just being out in nature, you can give them to connect in a way that they understand they're connected, and it doesn't feel like it's a chore to them?
One of the things that I tell people that say that they can't meditate, because I struggle with that. I have a real monkey mind, chatter mind, and a part of me that always thinks, oh, you have to be doing something. So I invite people to do walking meditation. You don't have to sit still, but just go out. And I love to go out in the early morning or later in the evening, right before, or right now it's in the afternoon when the sun goes down, and really find something to notice, like the light, to watch the light and the way that it shines through different objects. So just get fascinated with something, walk very slowly, Just get fascinated with something. It could be a sound, it could be a smell, but just use your senses and really open up and get connected. Look at the details of a leaf, or listen to the sound of the running water. And if your mind wanders, so be it. Then just notice that and bring it back again to the next thing that fascinates you.
Share a little bit more about that. I know we're going to slide past our time here, but that was so important. Getting back and not letting the monkey mind, as you shared, take you off. Could you share just one technique on how to get back into quieting your mind?
Breathing, I think, is the most important thing. It's taking a nice deep breath in and holding it for a few moments and then letting it out completely, and then pausing before the next breath and just noticing, paying attention to what you notice. What are you feeling? Body sensations. And if you do that about 7 times, that should really help you be able to get focused and get out of your head.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much. Tamara, how can people get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is through my website, which is www.thewilddivine.us.
All right. And I'll make sure that information is available on Tamara's show page. Just go to themiracleu.com. That information will be available. Plus some ways to follow Tamara on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Tamara Herl, thank you so much for sharing with us today. The information that you passed on will make such a difference with the imagination, and I know is already making such a difference in the world.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you do, Vince.
Oh, thank you. You're so welcome, and I can't wait for people to learn even more about you by going to the website. On behalf of Mary, my wife and business partner, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleu.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 mind awakening steps toward your unique purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleu.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.